First of all, I think we should remember the starting point for this was that the Paris Agreement actually gave us a new instrument, and the instrument is called the NDC. Each country has an NDC which gives an excellent kind of target, way forward towards a more climate compatible future, but they are nowhere near being an investment plan in most countries. So now the big challenge is actually to implement the NDCs. It's obvious that they are implementable and that there are many gaps in them, and if you actually fill the gaps you might even be able to increase the ambition of many of the NDCs. At the moment they are not sufficient to take us to a world of 2 degrees or 1.5 degrees increase in temperature. So developing countries have an important role in this process, and they are all now ready to start implementing their NDCs. Now the big challenge is really what does it actually mean and how do you fund it? Climate finance is an excellent way of catalyzing investment, but we should remember that we are talking about such transformational change that you cannot imagine this to happen with the availability of, with all the funds that are available from the official climate funds. So the big challenge is really to package investments in a way that makes really smart use of climate funds, to actually leverage public and private resources in really large scale. That is now very much the discussion here also, that the ownership of this development and the incredibly sort of big capacity that this requires from the governments and the countries to actually be able to navigate the extremely complex world of blended finance. You have to make a business case. It is relatively easy for mitigation investments because nowadays you can actually demonstrate relatively good rates of return for renewable energy and energy efficiency investments. So there, the work is already happening. It is more complicated to build a business case for adaptation investments and building resilience. And that is the challenge. We have to be able to demonstrate the long-term risks and the importance of the private sector understanding the consequences of climate change in the long term and throughout the lifetime of a project they're embarking on, rather than looking at short-term benefits that usually is the focus.